I'm going to talk to you about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I want to start without any spoilers, just give you some pretty high-level stuff, what I like and what I don't like, and then we'll work through and maybe we'll play the trailer and go through a little bit more spoilers, that kind of thing. The biggest thing is if you're a fan of the first film, I think you're really going to enjoy the continuation of Miles' story, Gwen's story. I think you're really going to love the art and the style of animation and the music and the soundtrack. I think all of that works really great. You're in it. It continues it. It seems like it's a great continuation of the universe that they've built. All the secondary characters with it, Miles' parents, um, the Peter Parker has a decent role. All those things work really well, and that is the backbone, I think, of why the film has got a lot of praise, why it's doing well at the box office. You'll hear the word great thrown around a little too much, I think, with this film, but I think it is a great experience. I think you could have a great time. I think sometimes people are equating that feeling or that positive experience with the quality of the film itself. But it's also not bad. It's not terrible in any way. It's very good. It's strong. Not as good as the first one, right? I don't think anybody expects it to be as good as the first one. I will say Spot is the villain or the antagonist, and he has a good backstory. At least you learn a little bit about all of that without things being sort of like cheesy and cliche. It's just sort of like it's like a built-in consequence of the events of the first film set this film up as happening. That's fair. That this is a very smart way to handle the multiverse in a way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has not done well with Loki or Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I think they both fell very short of handling all of that well. And this film does that. If anything else, it accomplished that very, very well. The biggest negative of the film is the length. This film is over 2 hours long again. I think it's 2 hours, 15, 20. Way too long. Didn't need to be that long. The film is also jam packed full of a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of story for Miles and Gwen and other stuff. It's a lot to digest. It's almost like they were going for like a spider epic, to be honest. It's almost like too much is in this film. So there's a criticism. It's almost like the film is fat. It needed to be a lot leaner. There's also a ton of characters, and there are scenes that are almost like sensory overload with so much stuff happening that you almost really can't. I don't say that you can't enjoy it. It's just that you definitely can't get the appreciation of what was done at like a theatrical point. You're almost like it's almost set up for streaming and digital so you can go back and get all the stuff you miss. And I'm like, is that the point of a movie now? Is that we'll have that much stuff in there that you can't really take it all in when it's happening? So that's kind of my general thing. It's a very strong film. If I had to give it a score, I'm probably going to go 3.5. I think I'm going to go 3.5. First film, I'm probably going to say it's about a 4. And on the low side, I would probably say it's a 3. Like it's a very strong 3 though. It's a very strong 3. It's very solid. Film's good. Um, so anyway, with that, I am going to get into spoilers now. If you don't want to have any spoilers, um, yeah, here's your chance. No credit scenes. That's another thing I can throw out there for you. There's no scenes; it just ends. So, um, let's pull up a little bit of footage, and you can see right away with some of the images in the trailer that all of the um, graphics and animation is definitely a continuation of the stuff that we enjoy in the first film. Um, yeah. So this is Spot in the original origin story. We first get introduced. So before we get to that, though, let me see if I can get to a shot before we get to this because there's a lot of this. Um, I don't see it in this trailer. Hmm. All right. Well, criticism or not, the first 20 minutes is Gwen. It's a lot of Gwen. And I'm like, am I watching a Miles Morales movie or a Gwen movie? And reality is we're kind of watching both, right? So the first 20 minutes is Gwen, backstory, understanding her universe. But more importantly, what we're doing is we're establishing the fact that there's a mirror of her universe to his universe and what we know, right? So this is what they do well is they create sort of a foundational principle of this is what a Spider-Man universe is and was, even if it's a Spider-Woman universe, doesn't matter. This is what it is. Now we're going to have variants of that infinitely. Okay. And then we have 20, 25 minutes of Miles universe. And we have a little bit of this whole thing. We'll introduce Spot, which by the way, him pulling his mask up and eating and things like that. And this long drawn out part about him school and all of that. It's all fine. This is the part that was in the trailer when they finally come back together. Yeah, we'll get to her. Oh, okay. So that's kind of where you're at. And then they ultimately end up getting sucked into the fact that because Gwen is there visiting with him, but shouldn't have been. And then um she's there to kind of follow Spot, but reality is she's also there to see Miles. Spot gets away, Miles follows, and we end up down this rabbit hole of what other spider people and society is there. I'm trying not to get into semantics. This is another race swapped character, Jessica Drew, who is also pregnant and rides a motorcycle. And she's super cool and doesn't care about it. And she's trying to channel her best Jackie Brown. And it was probably the one thing I like least about the film. She's not relevant to anything. She doesn't bring anything positive other than create someone or something for Spider-Gwen to bicker about. That's really it. It was terrible. Um, yeah, throughout these different sequences and scenes, you have these moments. Let's pull it up here. Where again on digital, you're going to be able to go back and catch some of these different variants of who they are and all that kind of stuff, which will be kind of fun, but it's a lot of sensory overload and things like that. Now, the other really important antagonist, and I say antagonist meaning he's a hero, but he is an antagonist to Miles' character, and that is Miguel Hayes. This is the Oscar Isaacs version. This is Spider-Man 2099. So the spoiler twist, like if you don't want to know, this is the biggest twist in the movie, done very, very well. Again, this is all the way you handle a multiverse. Okay. He has taken upon himself to govern the variants and all of these deviations. And they keep using this term about breaking canon, which didn't really like that part as much. Like it's a term almost on the nose with comic books, but it's not really used in film or multiverse conversations. But that's the term they use because um, he decides with when he has to deal with tragedy and loss in his Spider Verse, which they all have to go through. He goes to a universe where his character's not there and he can live with his family again. And it creates a destruction of that whole universe. It's almost like what we see with Loki. What they were going for was you can break the whole thing and it has to be destroyed. Well, he's trying to protect everything because of Miles. Well, come to find out, Spot, who is tied to the particle accelerator thing that we see in the first movie, during that experimentation with Spot, they pulled through the radioactive spider and it bites Miles. It wasn't supposed to be from this universe. It's not the right spider. It's a different spider. It's a wrong spider. And it bit Miles. It wasn't supposed to bite Miles. It was supposed to, create their own Peter. So he is trying to stop Miles from correcting his universe, saving his dad, and all these different things that have to happen for the Spider-Man to become who he is. He has to deal with that tragedy. This is part of the loss of Uncle Ben and all these different things. It's really, really, really good dynamic in the film. And it's played really well because we also do bring back Peter Parker and some other characters. This is them going through some of these details, and I have to be honest though, some of this stuff just took forever. This is Peter Parker. Now, The biggest criticism you're gonna get is he's running around with a pink robe on the whole time, and it is dumb. It's dumb. It's like it's just it's designed for us to be so on the nose with a Mr. Mom thing, right? Because that's Mayday, his daughter. But he has this great hit you in the feels thing about why he wanted to go back to his life and try again and have a kid because Miles he was so attached to Miles from the first film. And we get to meet Mayday, who has spider powers. And she's hysterical and sweet and cute and all those kinds of moments. I think the onesie would have worked without the pink robe. I think the pink robe is what's overkill. I think the pink robe is what's distracting and dumb and creates a lot of criticism because it's just dumb and it's supposed to be, emasculating. Um, all this stuff was just all cut out of order and stuff, and you see some different elements that are all fine, but you have this world of conflict that Miles has created for himself by disrupting the canon, and now it's trying to undo all that. But you can see the graphics are similar, the style similar. All of this works very, very well. Um, and yeah, that was part of like the just a multitude of Spider-Man. They had the great gag about the three Spider-Men all pointing to one another. They have it on scale, like multiples of it all happening simultaneously. Tons of references of different Spider-Men. If you're a fan of noir Spider-Man or Spider-Ham from the first film, they're not in it until the very final sequence. There's a very sort of like closing scene, and you get them in it. But instead, you get like Cowboy Spider-Man, you get T-Rex Spider-Man. I hate the oh, his name's not Brody. What the frick is his name? It's Spider Punk, but he doesn't want they don't want us to call him that. Howie, right? Hobie. Hobie. Oh gosh, I hate Hobie. It's so dumb because it's like this punk UK anarchist thing. And early on, it's played up like we can't understand him, but then later, it's like everything about him is supposed to be cool to be this anarchist, and it all works out okay for him. Yet I'm like, I really, really don't like the character like at all. I don't think he really brings anything great other than like this fake boyfriend tension with Gwen between Miles. It's like, all right. I just don't care. Let's see. There's a whole sequence with India Spider-Man. Again, didn't like it. And this is the sequence that Miles unwittingly changes by helping save uh, the character there. And that kind of messes up the canon for that universe, and it's creating problems and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of complexity, but again, it's over 2 hours long. Of course, you're going to have complexity. I don't know that you needed this much complexity to have a good film. I think that some of it's overkill. Uh, but it is very much as much a Miles and Gwen story as it is one or the other. Like it's they're both in this. Like it sets her up as much as it does him. I don't know. I don't know that I would ever say I felt hmm, if it's woke or not though, because I don't know that she's ever elevated to the expense of his character. His character is kind of on a journey, and his shortcoming is always like lack of information. And then there's like a maturity issue. And her timeline is just different on that. It's not the meant that she's hmm, belittling of him or anything like that. And she's definitely not. She is hiding how much she cares about him. You can see that struggle done very well. So that's my thoughts on that. Um, so yeah, some parts of this work really well. Other parts I think are just long-winded. Some of this stuff with the parents, I think it just goes on forever. So that first 45 minutes does not need to be 45 minutes. That would be the area of the film that I would spend some time with, and then tweaking some of the other stuff, because Spot also just gets forgotten. Once we're down the rabbit hole of Miles has broken canon, has to get lectured to, and contained and then chased by multiple Spider-Men. All of that, just forget about Spot for a while because we'll come back to him who shows up and then the film just abruptly ends. And I thought Dune ended abruptly. Oh man, this movie was way worse. Like, to be continued, and you're like, well, what? So that's my take on the film. Love to hear your thoughts. I know many of you may be seeing this, have done reviews. I haven't watched your review yet. I'll get your thoughts and we can kind of sight up and see kind of where we agree or disagree on some things. Um, I got to be honest. I kind of expected to hate it more because I know there's been over analysis of, woke and different references to, I don't know, social commentary. I didn't feel like any of that uh like ruined the film for me, but I also don't think the film exactly knew what it wanted to do. It wanted to do all of it at once, and it mostly did well. That's my take on it. So, thanks so much for watching. I am Pops.
Yeah. Right?